Can you fall in love with me too? That's the question hanging in the air over Seoul. But how did Adana Kang get here? How did she go from a cheating fiancé to a Mafia king's penthouse in one night? From heartbroken to holding the heart of the most dangerous man in the city? Her unbelievable story, the brutal betrayal, the drunken wedding, the secret 2-year obsession, and the deadly warehouse rescue, is all in part 1. The link is on screen and in the description. Watch it, then come right back here. Because her answer changes everything. Here's part 2. Adana's heart clenched. This man, this dangerous, powerful, complicated man, was offering her his heart with the same vulnerability he'd shown when he'd held her after the warehouse rescue. I don't know, she answered honestly. 2 days ago, I would have said I'd never love again, that I was done with heartbreak and trust and all of it. But then I woke up in your bed, in your world, and everything changed. She turned to face him fully. You're a mafia king. You deal in violence. You control things from the shadows. By every metric I've ever used to judge my life, you should terrify me. But, he asked quietly, but you also protected Sujin without being asked. You valued the same thing I valued. Protecting someone vulnerable. You gave me choice when you could have forced. I woke up in your bed and realized you didn't take advantage of me when I was drunk and knocked out. You've been honest about your world instead of hiding it. And when I was in danger tonight, you were terrified for me. I saw it. Real, raw, fear. She reached up and cupped his face, mimicking his earlier gesture. I don't love you yet, Kang Minseo. But I think I could. I think I'm already starting to. And that terrifies me more than anything else in your world. He turned his head to kiss her palm. Then we'll take it slow. As slow as we need to. We'll build something real, not just the paper marriage we started with. We'll be partners, in business and strategy and life. And maybe, eventually, in love. And if it doesn't work? Adana asked. Then I'll let you go, he said, though the words clearly caused him a lot of pain. If you ever truly want to leave, I'll let you go. I'll make sure you're safe, set up somewhere far from here, give you all the resources you need to rebuild. I won't trap you. I value you too much to do that. His eyes searched hers. But I really hope you'll get to love me and you'll stay. So do I, she admitted. The sun was fully up now, bathing them both in golden light. Minseo pulled her close and she let herself sink into his embrace. For the first time in years, maybe for the first time ever, she felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Dangerous? Yes. Complicated? Absolutely. But also real. Raw. True. Welcome to the family, Adana Kang, he whispered. She smiled against his chest. Thank you, husband. And she could hear his heart beat faster against her cheek. The new exhibition hall opening was Adana's biggest project yet. A joint Korean-African trade summit, bringing together businesses from 20 countries. The hall was packed, buzzing with conversation in a dozen languages. Adana moved through the crowd in a tailored suit, greeting old contacts, making new ones, orchestrating the controlled chaos with practiced ease. This was her element. This was what she did best. Minseo watched from the side, Hannah beside him. She's remarkable, Hannah said. I didn't think I'd ever say this, but you chose well, Appa. I know. The dragon's head has been quiet since the warehouse incident. Choi is finished. Bankrupt, under investigation, a ghost of what he was. And Adana's reputation has only grown. People respect her. They respect you for choosing her. I didn't choose her for politics, Minseo said. I know. That's what makes it perfect. Hannah glanced at her brother. So when are you going to tell her you're completely in love with her? I already did. 3 months ago. And she said she's still figuring it out. He smiled, watching as Adana laughed at something a Nigerian ambassador said, her whole face lighting up. But she wears my ring. She lives in our home. She works beside me on everything from legitimate business to shadow operations. She calls me at midnight to brainstorm solutions. She falls asleep on my chest while we're reading reports. And yesterday she told me she's happy. And that's enough? For now. He pushed off the wall. Excuse me. My wife needs me. He crossed the room to where Adana was being cornered by an overly enthusiastic vendor. She saw him coming and relief flashed in her eyes. Mr. Kim. Minseo said smoothly in Korean, extending his hand to the vendor. Thank you for supporting my wife's event. Shall we discuss your concerns in my office tomorrow? I'm sure we can find a solution. The vendor, clearly intimidated but trying not to show it, agreed quickly and retreated. Adana let out a breath. My hero. Always, he said and meant it. He offered his arm. Walk with me. They strolled through the exhibition together, and Adana was aware of how natural it had become. This partnership. This life. 3 months ago she'd woken up terrified and trapped. Now she woke up beside him and felt chosen. Safe. Powerful. I have something for you, Minseo said as they reached a quieter corner. Another gift? You just bought me that ridiculous car. The Tesla is practical. This is different. He handed her a folder. She opened it, confusion crossing her face. It was a property deed. A building in Itaewon, the International District. A beautiful old structure that had been renovated into a modern event space. What is this? Yours, he said simply. The building, the business, everything. It's in your name alone. Not mine. Not the family's. Yours. She stared at him. Minseo, this is worth. I know what it's worth. He touched her face gently. You told me once that you've spent your life building bridges for other people. This is your bridge. Your space to create whatever you want. Trade shows, cultural events, art exhibitions. Whatever you dream. And it's completely independent of me and my world. Clean money. Clean business. If you ever want to walk away from the shadows, you can. You'll have this and you can do whatever you want with it. Her eyes filled with tears. You're giving me an exit? I'm giving you choice, he corrected. Always. That's what love is, sweetheart. It's not possession. It's not control. It's choosing each other every day. Freely. She set down the folder and wrapped her arms around his neck, kissing him deeply, not caring who saw. When she pulled back, she was smiling. I choose you, she said. I choose this life. I choose us. You're sure? I'm terrified, she admitted. I'm still figuring out how to reconcile the woman I was with the woman I'm becoming. I still wake up sometimes and can't believe this is real. But yes, I'm sure. Because you see all of me, the strength, the fear, the darkness, the light, and you love all of it. I do, he said softly. Every part of you. Then I'm staying. Not because I'm trapped, but because I want to. She kissed him again, softer this time. I love you, Kang Minseo. God help me, but I do. His smile was brilliant, transformative. He picked her up and spun her around, laughing, both of them giddy with the declaration. When he set her down, he kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. Say it again, he demanded. I love you. Again. I love you, you ridiculous man. One more time. She laughed. I love you. I love you. I love you. Is that enough? Never, he said. But it's a good start. Across the room, Hannah watched them with a small smile. Taeyang appeared at her elbow. The boss looks happy, he observed. He does, Hannah agreed. She's good for him. Makes him human again. And she's good for the business. Legitimacy. Connections. Strategy. That too. Hannah glanced at her head of security. But mostly she makes him happy. And that's worth more than any business advantage. Taeyang nodded. The men respect her. They'd follow her orders now, even without the boss present. Good. She's family now. Truly. Hannah straightened her jacket. Come. Let's make sure security is airtight. The dragon's head may be wounded, but wounded animals are dangerous. And I won't let anything happen to my sister-in-law. 6 months into their marriage, Adana had fully adapted to her dual life. By day, she was a respected international business consultant, organizing trade shows and cultural exchanges. By night, she sat in strategy meetings with Minseo and his lieutenants, offering insights from her global network, helping navigate the complex web of legitimate and shadow businesses. She'd learned to read the undercurrents of power and Seoul, learned which politicians could be trusted and which were looking for opportunities to betray, learned the subtle language of threats and alliances, learned when to be the polished businesswoman and when to let the steel show through. She and Minseo had found their rhythm, partners in every sense. They worked together, strategized together, fought occasionally and made up with passion. And slowly, carefully, she'd come to not just love him but trust him completely. So when Minseo came home early one evening, his face grim, she knew immediately something was wrong. "What happened?" she asked, setting down her tablet. He handed her his phone. A text message in Korean, "We're not finished yet. Your wife is very beautiful. Let's see how long she lasts." Below it, a photo of Adana from that morning, walking to a coffee shop near her new event space in Itaewon. She hadn't noticed anyone following her. "Dragon's Head," Minseo said, his voice tight with controlled fury. "They're regrouping. New leadership after we took down Choi. More aggressive. More reckless." Adana's blood ran cold. But she kept her voice steady. "What's their play? They want to draw me into a public conflict. Force a war that would expose both our operations, bring police scrutiny, destroy the balance we've maintained." He took the phone back. "They think threatening you is the way to make me reckless. Are they right?" she asked quietly. He looked at her and she saw the struggle in his eyes. The man who loved her warring with the strategist who knew better than to let emotion drive decisions. 6 months ago I would have said no, he admitted. I would have said I'd never let personal feelings compromise the organization. But now, he cupped her face. Now I'd burn the entire city to keep you safe. So yes, they're right. You're my weakness. Then we turned the weakness into strength, Adana said, her mind already racing. They expect you to either overreact or try to hide me away. We do neither. What are you thinking? We go public. Really public. She pulled out her own phone, scrolling through her calendar. I have the African Union Trade Summit next month. 200 delegates, international press, ambassadors from 30 countries. You were planning to attend as my guest, right? Yes, but we make it a showcase. The legitimate businessman and his wife, hosting an event that brings millions in international business to Seoul. We invite the police chief, the mayor, the media. We operate completely in the light. She looked up at him. They can't touch me in front of the entire world without exposing themselves. And if they try, they're not just fighting you, they're fighting international interests, diplomatic pressure, global scrutiny. Minseo stared at her and slowly appreciation dawned in his eyes. You want to use legitimacy as armor. Exactly. I'm not just your wife. I'm a successful businesswoman with connections to governments and corporations worldwide. Hurting me has consequences beyond just making you angry. It becomes an international incident. It's risky. If they're truly reckless. They're not stupid, Adana interrupted. Reckless, yes, but not stupid. They're businessmen at their core just like you. They understand consequences. She set down her phone. Besides, I'm tired of being threatened. I'm tired of looking over my shoulder. It's time to remind them exactly who they're dealing with. Hannah, who had entered during the conversation, let out a low whistle. I really do like her, Appa. This puts you at enormous risk, Minseo said to Adana, ignoring his sister. If I'm wrong about their calculations, then we deal with it together. She took his hands. I'm not running. I'm not hiding. I didn't marry you to be locked in a tower. I married you to be your partner. So let me partner. He searched her eyes for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Okay, we do it your way. But with conditions. Name them. Taeyang doesn't leave your side. Ever. Not even for 5 minutes. Agreed. We sweep for threats every single day leading up to the summit. Security is tripled. Agreed. And the second, something feels wrong, you get out. No heroics, no trying to handle it yourself. You trust Taeyang and you run. She nodded. I can live with that. Good. He pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her tightly. Because I can't live without you. That's the truth. You've become everything. She held him just as tightly, feeling the tension in his body, the fear he was trying to control. "We're going to be okay," she promised. "We're smart, we're careful, and we're together. They can't beat that." "From your mouth to God's ears," he murmured, sounding like her Nigerian self. The month leading up to the summit was intense. Security preparations were exhaustive, background checks on every vendor, every volunteer, every attendee. Metal detectors at every entrance. Plainclothes security throughout the venue. Minseo's people coordinating with legitimate private security firms and even liaising discreetly with police to ensure coverage without raising suspicions about why a trade summit needed such protection. Adana threw herself into the work, grateful for the distraction. She knew Minseo's people were simultaneously working another angle, tracking the Dragon's Head's new leadership, identifying their operations, preparing for conflict if it came. But she also knew that her plan was sound. The summit would host not just business leaders but political figures, diplomats, journalists. The Dragon's Head would have to be insane to make a move in such a public setting. The day of the summit arrived with typical Seoul weather, bright, clear, and cold. The convention center sparkled in the morning light. Inside, everything was perfect. Booths set up, technology functioning, catering ready, volunteers at their stations. Adana walked through the space with Taeyong one step behind, doing a final check. She wore a burgundy power suit that Hannah had helped her select, her hair pulled back professionally, her game face on. This was her domain, her expertise, and she would not let threats from criminals ruin what she'd worked so hard to create. "Mrs. Kang," one of the coordinators called. "The Nigerian ambassador has arrived early. He'd like to speak with you." Adana smiled. "Excellent. Let's go greet him." The day proceeded smoothly. Delegates arrived, speeches were made, business cards exchanged. The energy was electric, the kind of atmosphere Adana lived for, where deals were made and connections forged. She moved through it all like a conductor leading an orchestra, introducing people, facilitating conversations, solving small problems before they became large ones. Minseo arrived mid-morning, and the presence of the distinguished businessman Kang Minseo added another layer of prestige to the event. He played his part perfectly. The supportive husband, the legitimate entrepreneur interested in African markets, the generous sponsor who'd helped fund the summit. They stood together as the mayor of Seoul gave a speech praising the event as an example of Korea's commitment to global partnership. Cameras flashed. Reporters took notes. It was perfect. Too perfect. Adana felt it first. A prickle at the back of her neck. An instinct honed over years of managing events where things could go wrong. Something was off. She scanned the crowd, her eyes searching. There, a man in a server's uniform, but his movements were wrong. Too stiff. Too watchful. His eyes weren't on the food he was supposedly serving but on the exits. She touched Taeyong's arm and nodded subtly toward the man. Taeyong saw him immediately, his hand moving to his concealed weapon. Then she spotted another. And another. 3 men, all in service uniforms, all positioned strategically around the main hall. Her heart began to race, but she kept her face calm. She leaned close to Minseo, her voice barely audible. "We have a problem. 3 hostiles. Server uniforms. They're positioned for something." Minseo's expression didn't change, but she felt him tense. He raised his hand to his ear, activating his concealed earpiece, and spoke in Korean so low she barely heard. Code red. 3 hostiles in server uniforms. Seal the exits. Find them now. Everything happened fast after that. 2 of Minseo's security team, dressed as regular attendees, began moving toward the suspicious servers. The men noticed immediately and bolted. 1 toward the kitchen, 1 toward a side exit, 1 toward the main stage where the mayor was still speaking. Panic rippled through the crowd. Screams. Movement. The controlled atmosphere shattering into chaos. "Get the mayor out." Adana shouted, her crisis training kicking in. She grabbed a microphone, switching to English and then Korean. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm and move toward the main exits in an orderly fashion. This is a security precaution. Please remain calm." Her voice, amplified and authoritative, cut through some of the panic. People began moving toward exits instead of stampeding. Taeyong had her arm, trying to pull her toward safety, but she resisted. "The ambassador. The Nigerian ambassador is elderly, he can't move fast. Mrs. Kang, we need to go. Not without him." She pulled free and ran toward where she'd last seen Ambassador Okoro. The elderly man was trying to stand, confusion and fear on his face, his aide struggling to help him. Adana reached them, grabbed the ambassador's other arm. "Sir, come with me quickly." Together they moved toward an exit. Behind her, she could hear shouts, the sounds of a struggle. She didn't look back. Her job was to get people out safely. They reached the exit just as an explosion rocked the building. Not a huge explosion, not a bomb meant to kill everyone, but enough to blow out windows, to send smoke billowing, to cause real panic. Adana hit the ground, covering the ambassador with her body as glass rained down. Her ears rang. Smoke stung her eyes. Strong hands grabbed her, Taeyong pulling her up, pulling all of them up and out into the cold air. Outside was chaos. Fire alarms wailing. People streaming out of the building. Emergency vehicles already approaching, their sirens adding to the cacophony. Adana did a mental count, delegates, volunteers, staff. Where was everyone? She started checking, organizing, doing what she did best even in crisis, bringing order to chaos. Everyone stay together. Check in with your delegations. Is anyone hurt? Minor injuries. Cuts from glass. Some smoke inhalation. But no one dead. No one critically wounded. Thank God. Adana. Minseo's voice raw with fear. She turned and he was there, pulling her to him so hard she gasped. He ran his hands over her, checking for injuries, his face pale. "I'm okay," she said. "I'm okay. The ambassador is fine. Everyone's fine." He cupped her face and his hands were shaking. "You didn't run. You stayed to help people. You could have been killed." "So could you," she pointed out. "Where are the men?" "Caught. All three. One of them detonated the bomb. Nothing major. Just enough to cause panic and damage." His jaw clenched. "They weren't trying to kill people. They were trying to destroy your event. Prove they could hit us even in the light." "They failed," Adana said firmly. She looked at the building, smoke pouring from one section but the structure sound. Then at the people. Scared but alive, already being attended to by paramedics. And now they've exposed themselves in front of the entire world. She was right. Within hours, the story was everywhere. Attempted terrorist attack on international trade summit foiled by quick security response. The Dragon's Head hadn't signed their name, but everyone in Seoul's shadow world would know who was responsible. That night, in the penthouse, Adana sat wrapped in a blanket despite the heat being on. Shock was setting in now that the adrenaline had faded. Her hands shook as she held a cup of tea Hannah had made her. "You did well today," Hannah said quietly. She sat beside Adana on the couch, a rare moment of softness from the usually stern woman. "You kept people calm. Probably saved lives by preventing a stampede. I just did what needed to be done. That's what makes you family." Hannah smiled. "You don't run from the fire. You run toward it. Just like us." Minseo entered, followed by several of his key lieutenants. His face was a mask of cold fury that Adana had only seen once before. The night at the warehouse. "We have the men," he said without preamble. "All three are talking. And what they're saying is interesting." "Tell me," Adana said. "The new Dragons had leadership?" "It's not new. It's old. Very old." Minseo's voice was tight with barely controlled rage. "The man calling the shots is Park Dae-young, my father's former lieutenant. The man my father banished 20 years ago for trying to stage a coup." Adana set down her tea. "This is personal. Not just business." "Yes. He wants revenge on my father's memory by destroying everything I've built. You were never just a strategic target. You were a way to hurt me specifically. To prove I'm weak. What are you going to do?" Minseo looked at her, and she saw the struggle in his eyes again. The man who wanted bloody vengeance warring with the strategist who knew better. "What would you do?" he asked. She considered carefully. The old way would be to hit back hard. Violent. Quick. Make an example. Yes. But that's what he wants. He wants you to act like your father. Brutal, reactive, driven by angry emotion. He wants to prove you're the same. She stood, letting the blanket fall. "So don't give him what he wants. Be better. Be smarter." "How?" "You have evidence now. 3 men who'll testify that we have to keep alive. Security footage. Forensics from the explosive. Adana's mind was racing, putting pieces together. The event today? It was covered by international media. There are diplomats involved now. Government interest. This isn't just Seoul's business anymore. Understanding dawned in Minseo's eyes. We give it to the authorities. All of it. You've been building legitimate businesses for years. Cultivating relationships with police, prosecutors, politicians who aren't corrupt. Use those relationships now. Let the law handle Park. He'll go to prison for terrorism, attempted murder, endangerment of diplomats. She smiled coldly. And in prison he's vulnerable. Not from you directly, but from his own people who'll see him as a failure. As the man who got them all exposed. The dragon's head will tear itself apart. Hannah said, seeing the strategy. Leadership struggles. Infighting. While they're distracted, we consolidate. And we come out looking like the good guys, another lieutenant added. The legitimate businessmen who cooperated with authorities to stop terrorists. Minseo stared at Adana with something like awe. You've learned well. I had a good teacher. She crossed to him, took his hands. But more than that, I learned that the real power isn't just in being feared. It's in being untouchable because you've made yourself indispensable to the system. You protect that system when it serves you, and it protects you in return. My father believed in brute force. He would have called that weakness. Your father, unfortunately, is no more, Adana said softly. And you're building something better. Something that will last. That's not weakness. That's evolution. He pulled her close, kissing her forehead. Have I told you today that I love you? Not since this morning. Then I'm reminding you. I love you. You're brilliant and brave, and you make me better than I ever thought I could be. Good, she said, smiling against his chest. Because you're stuck with me now. And Hannah and the team cheered happily. Adana stood by the penthouse windows looking at the city lights. The summit bombing was over. The police had taken the credit. The news called Minseo a heroic businessman. It was over. But she felt a knot in her stomach that wouldn't go away. There was one battle left for her. The hardest one. Minseo came up behind her. He rested his hands on her shoulders. We're safe. Park is finished. The law will take him now. I know, Adana said, but her voice was tight. What's wrong? He turned her to face him. He saw the worry in her brilliant eyes. My parents? She whispered. My family. You know, I've been worried stiff about telling them about you. About us. About all of this. Minseo's face was calm, but she saw a flicker of his own worry. I seem to recall telling you to call them a long while ago, he said, not unkindly. I know, she groaned. Adana let out a shaky breath. They had talked about this many times before. They had put it off for weeks. Every time she found an excuse. Busy work week. A new crisis. The truth was she was scared. I've been avoiding it, she admitted. Her voice was small. I dread it. My mom and dad. They had a picture in their heads. Perfect wedding back home. A lawyer or a doctor for a husband. Someone safe. Someone they could understand. She looked up at Minseo. At his sharp, handsome face. At the dark eyes that saw everything. At the tattoos on his arms that spoke of a life they could never imagine. You're not their idea of a son-in-law. And getting drunk and marrying a stranger in Seoul. That's not their idea of how their daughter finds a husband. They'll be so disappointed. And so scared for me. Minseo pulled her close. He kissed the top of her head. They love you. That's why they'll be scared. I know. She took a deep, brave breath. It felt like she was getting ready to walk into another warehouse alone. But this was scarier. No more avoiding it. I'm doing it now. Right now. Before I lose my nerve again. Minseo nodded. He squeezed her hand. I'll be right here. Adana picked up her tablet. She opened the video call app. Her finger hovered over her parents' contact. Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it. She pressed the button. The call rang. And rang. Then her mother's face filled the screen. Dr. Chioma Okeke. She was beautiful, with kind eyes that could see right through you. She was in her home office, a medical book open behind her. Adana. Sweetheart. What a surprise. Her mother's face broke into a warm smile. Then it changed. She saw Adana's expression. What's wrong? Are you hurt? No, Mom. I'm fine. I'm safe. Is Dad there? Of course. Her mother called out. Emmanuel. Adana is on video. She looked serious. A moment later, her father's face appeared beside her mother's. Judge Emmanuel Okeke. He had a stern, thoughtful face. The face of a man who listened to lies for a living and knew them all. He adjusted his glasses. Adana. What's going on? Hi, Dad. Her mouth was dry. I have some news. Big news. Are you pregnant? Her mother asked quickly, her doctor's mind jumping ahead. What? No, Mom. No. Adana almost laughed, but she was too nervous. I got married. Silence. Complete, total silence on the screen. Her parents just stared. Their faces were frozen. The smiles were gone. Married, her father repeated. His voice was flat. Not a question. A statement. Yes. To whom? Her mother asked. Her voice was careful. Too careful. His name is Minseo. Kang Minseo. He's Korean. He's here with me. Adana gestured for Minseo to come into the frame. He moved to stand beside her chair. He was tall and handsome in his dark shirt. He gave a small, formal bow to the screen. Mr. and Mrs. Okeke. It is an honor, he said. His voice was respectful. Her mom turned to her dad and said, I told you, Emmanuel, that this love that Adana had for Korea might end in our having a Korean son-in-law, but you just laughed at me. Her father muttered some words that Adana and Minseo couldn't hear. Adana's parents did not speak again for what seemed like an hour, though it was probably a few seconds. They were looking at Minseo. They were looking at his sharp face, his intense eyes. They were looking at the tattoos peeking out from his sleeves. Judge Okeke's eyes missed nothing. When did this happen? Her father asked. His tone was the one he used in court. Adana swallowed. A little while ago. How little? Her mother pressed. A few months. It was almost the truth. Months? Her father leaned closer to the screen. And you are only telling us now. Why? Adana felt like a child again. Because I knew how you would react. I knew it wasn't what you wanted for me. It wasn't a big church wedding. It wasn't someone you knew. I was scared. And it was sudden. Sudden? Her mother echoed. Her eyes were scanning Adana's face, looking for signs of stress, of fear. Adana, look at me. Are you in trouble? Did he force you into this? What has he got on you? Do you need help? We can be on a plane tonight. Your brothers can come. No. Adana said it too loudly. She saw Minseo stiffen beside her. No, Mom. It's not like that. I chose this. I chose him. He's a good man. He protects me. He respects me. What does he do? Her father asked, his eyes locked on Minseo. I am in business, Minseo answered for himself. His voice was steady. Import, export. Venture capital. I own several hotels and convention centers in Seoul. That is how I first met Adana. Through her work. It was all true. Just not the whole truth. A businessman, her father said. He didn't sound convinced. You married our daughter in a foreign country months ago and she didn't tell us. That does not sound like a man with nothing to hide. Dad, please, Adana begged. No, Adana. Her mother's voice was firm now. The warm mom was gone. The stern doctor was here. This is not okay. We are your parents. We love you. This secrecy, this man we have never met. We are coming there. We need to see you. We need to see this for ourselves. Mom? 1 week, her father stated. It was not a suggestion. It was a verdict. We will be in Seoul in 1 week. Your brothers are coming too. We will stay in a hotel. You will make the time. We will meet your husband properly. Adana's heart sank. A week? But 1 week, Adana. Her mother's face was a mask of worry. That is final. We need to know you are safe and that you married this man of your own free will. There was no arguing. Adana nodded weakly. Okay. 1 week. The call ended a few painful minutes later. The screen went dark. Adana put her head in her hands. That was worse than I imagined. Minseo was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "They love you very much." "I know. That's why it hurts." She looked up at him. He was standing perfectly still, but his jaw was tight. She saw it then. The fear. The mighty Kang Minseo, who fought gangsters and owned a city's shadows, was afraid of her parents. A tiny smile touched her lips. "You're scared." He didn't deny it. Nigerian parents. A judge and a surgeon. What's not to fear? I really want them to like me. Adana stood up and wrapped her arms around him. She rested her head on his chest. Just be you. The you that I see. The you who helped Sujin. The you who trusts me. They'll see it. They'll like you. Eventually. He held her tight. I hope so. For our sake. But the dread was a cold stone in both their stomachs. The dragon's head had been an enemy they could fight. Familiar territory even. But Adana's family was a storm they could only prepare for and hope to survive. The most anxiety-filled meeting of their lives was now just 7 days away. The week that followed was a strange kind of calm. The city felt quieter. The news still talked about the brave businessman who helped stop terrorists. Minseo and Adana tried to pretend everything was normal, but they were both counting the days. In 6 days her parents would land. The thought was a dark cloud over everything they did. They talked about what restaurants to take them to. What sights to see. Minseo had his men do security checks on every place. Like he was planning a war, not a family visit. Adana tried to work. She threw herself into her cultural center project. It was her safe place. Her dream. Building bridges, not fighting in shadows. Minseo had promised to help fund it with clean money, and he did. Money that came from his public businesses, not the secret ones. It was important to her. It was something she could show her parents. Proof that her new life was building good things. That's why the news from Hannah hit so hard. Hannah came to the penthouse one afternoon. Her face was its usual calm mask, but her eyes were sharp. She didn't sit down. "We have a problem," she said. "No hello." "The property deal on Samseong RO. The one for the new community space next to your cultural center, Adana. It fell through." Adana looked up from her laptop. What? Our offer was strong. The architect's plans were approved. Someone else's offer was stronger, Hannah said. She looked at Minseo. By exactly 1.5%. They knew our final bid. To the digit. Minseo, who had been looking at reports, went very still. Which company? A shell company. No history. It's a ghost, Hannah said. The money trail will lead nowhere. It was created just to win this one bid. The room got quiet. Adana felt a cold trickle down her spine. This wasn't about money. The property wasn't that valuable. It was a small piece of a bigger plan. This is a message, Minseo said. His voice was low and dangerous. It's a whisper, Hannah corrected. She crossed her arms. It doesn't hurt us. Not really. We lose a small property deal. It's a tiny cut. But it's a perfect cut. It tells us someone is watching our moves. Someone has access to our private numbers. They're not attacking the castle. They're poisoning the well. Adana understood. The cultural center was her project. Her legitimate public dream. This attack was aimed at her. At the part of their life that was supposed to be clean and safe. Park is in custody, Adana said. The police have him. He's been released on bail, Minseo said. He stood up and walked to the window. And he has friends and people who owe him. This is his style. Small, sharp, personal. He wants us to feel watched. He wants us to feel like we have a leak. Do we? Adana asked. The word felt ugly in her mouth. Minseo and Hannah shared a look. It was a look that held 1,000 conversations they'd had without her. We will check, Minseo said finally. Every person who saw those numbers. Every email, every server. But Adana could see the worry on his face. The first leak was a tiny thing. But tiny cracks could break the strongest wall. And with her parents coming, the last thing they needed was a crack in their own house. The peaceful week was over. A new, quieter fear had arrived. It wasn't a bomb or a gun. It was a single, perfect number in a bid that shouldn't have been known. It was the sound of a whisper in a room they thought was sealed tight. And it was only the beginning. The crack in the wall made everything feel less safe. Adana went to the construction site of her cultural center a few days later. She needed to see the progress. She needed to touch something real that she was building. The skeleton of the building was up. Workers moved like ants, welding and hammering. The noise was loud and honest. It comforted her. She was looking at a blueprint with the site manager when she felt eyes on her. Not the usual curious looks. This was different. A heavy, familiar stare that made the back of her neck prickle. She turned. A man was leaning against the construction barrier, smiling. He was taller than she remembered. He wore a sleek jacket and expensive sunglasses. But she would know that smile anywhere. It was a smile that had once made her heart flutter. Now it just made her feel sick. Adana Kang, he said. His voice was smooth like melted chocolate. As I live and breathe. Deji. Her thieving college sweetheart. Her mouth went dry. Her brain froze. 10 years. She had not seen him in over 10 years. Not since the day she discovered their shared bank account was empty. Not since he vanished with every dollar she had saved for graduate school. Deji, she said. Her voice didn't sound like her own. He pushed off the barrier and walked toward her. He moved like he owned the space. He took off his sunglasses. His eyes were the same. Dark, clever, always calculating. Look at you. A queen in a hard hat. He laughed. It was a warm sound that felt like a lie. I heard you were doing big things in Seoul. I'm a journalist now. Freelance. I was in the neighborhood, thought I'd see if the rumors were true. A journalist. She remembered hearing that years ago from a mutual friend. That he was taking pictures for gossip blogs. That he would do anything for a story. What a coincidence, Adana said. Her voice was flat. She didn't believe in coincidences anymore. Isn't it? His eyes swept over her. They didn't look at her face. They looked at her clothes, her watch, the diamond wedding band on her finger. His smile got wider. And married, to some big-shot Korean businessman, I hear. Kang, right? Minseo Kang? You really landed on your feet. Every word felt like a probe. He was gathering information. His eyes were cameras clicking away, storing every detail. I guess you'd have preferred I landed on my knees, right? She retorted. What do you want, Deji? She asked. She was proud that her voice didn't shake. Just to reconnect ads. He used her old nickname. It felt like a violation. For old time's sake. Maybe do a feature. The Nigerian princess building bridges in Seoul. It's a great story. He pulled a crisp, white business card from his pocket. He held it out. Call me. We'll do lunch. My treat. The smile didn't reach his eyes. The old wound tore open. The humiliation. The betrayal. The empty bank account. He hadn't even mentioned it. He just smiled. She took the card because it was easier than arguing. Her fingers were cold. Goodbye, Deji. He winked. See you soon, Ats. He sauntered away, blending into the crowded street. Adana stood there, clutching the stupid card. The noise of the construction site faded into a dull roar in her ears. The ghost from one of her worst mistakes had just walked out of the past and into her new life. And he was taking pictures. The USB drive arrived 2 days later. It was in a plain white envelope, delivered to the penthouse's private mail. No return address. Adana opened it with a sinking feeling. She plugged it into her laptop in her private office. The folder had one word, proof. Inside were photos. Dozens of them. Her and Minseo leaving the charity gala, her in the emerald gown. Her hugging Sujin outside the yellow apartment door. A grainy long-lens shot of her at her exhibition before the bomb blast. The photos were invasive. They were taken by someone who had been following her, watching her private moments. The last file was a document. To Adana Kang. From a friend. Such a beautiful life you've built. The heroic businesswoman and her mysterious husband. The world loves a fairy tale. But the world loves a scandal more. I have the real story. The whole story. The story of what really happens in the shadows. We can work together. You give me exclusive access. You make me your official biographer. You help me. Financially. Or I sell this story to every outlet on the planet. Imagine the headlines. Your parents would be so proud. This perfect daughter, married to a Mafia king. Don't tell your husband. We both know how he'll react. And where's the fun in that? Call the number on the card. You have 48 hours. Adana stared at the screen. Rage hot and pure. Burned through her fear. The audacity. He wasn't just blackmailing her. He was enjoying it. He was trying to control her again just like he did with her money. He thought she was still the same scared girl. She wanted to go straight to Minseo. She wanted to show him the USB and watch Deji disappear forever. But she stopped herself. Minseo would strangle him. He would break him. And in a strange way that felt too easy. It wouldn't give her any satisfaction. It wouldn't fix the old hurt. It would just be Minseo fighting her battle. Again. She needed something else. She needed someone clever. Someone who understood strategy without just using fists. She called Hannah. 30 minutes later, they were in Hannah's art gallery office. Adana handed her the laptop. She watched Hannah's face as she scrolled through the photos and read the note. Hannah's expression didn't change, but her eyes turned to ice. Who is he? Hannah asked. Adana told her. Every painful detail. The college romance. The shared dreams. The shared bank account she'd worked 2 jobs to fill. The day she went to buy her textbooks and found a balance of $12.47. Deji gone. Her money gone. The exact dollar amount was burned into her memory. He took $8,300. Adana said, her voice tight. He left me with nothing. And he never said sorry. He just vanished. And now he's back. He thinks he can do it again. Hannah listened. She didn't offer sympathy. She just nodded. He targets you. He targets our family, she said, her voice cold and final. This is not your problem alone. It is ours. Hannah got to work. She was like a machine. She called in favors. She used databases Adana didn't want to know about. Within hours, she had a file on Deji. He's a parasite, Hannah reported, tapping her tablet. He works for the lowest gossip sites. He specializes in embarrassing rich people. He's good at it. He's also in deep debt. Gambling. Mostly in Macau. Then Hannah found something else. A payment. A small transfer of funds to Deji's account from a company called East Wind Consultancy. The description said, travel and research tips, Seoul. East Wind is a shell, Hannah said. A ghost company. But ghosts leave fingerprints in the digital world. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. The fingerprint leads to a man. A low-level runner for the Dragon's Head. A man who used to fetch coffee for Park Dae-yoon. Adana's blood ran cold. Park sent him? Not directly, Hannah said. But Park's people did. They investigated you when Minseo married you. They found nothing to use. No secrets, no crimes. You were too clean. So they dug deeper. They found the one rotten thing in your past. They found Deji. And they mailed him to you like a poison letter. This is Park's warfare. He attacks the mind. He uses your own history against you. Adana called Minseo. The 3 of them met in the penthouse. Hannah laid it all out. The photos, the blackmail, Deji's debt, the link to Park's man. Minseo's rage was a silent, terrifying thing. He didn't shout. He just looked at the photos of Adana, his eyes black with fury. Where is he? He asked, his voice deadly quiet. No, Adana said firmly. Minseo turned his dark gaze on her. If you hurt him, he becomes a victim, Adana said. And it doesn't fix what he did to me. It just hides it. She looked at Hannah. Hannah has a plan. Hannah almost smiled. It was a sharp, dangerous smile. We do not crush the parasite. We acquire it. We own it. We feed him beautiful, boring stories about your charity work. We make you a saint in the public eye. My lawyers will quietly contact his creditors in Macau. We will resolve his debts. Suddenly, his only source of clean money, his only protection, will be us. He will work for us. He will write what we tell him to write. He will be our loudspeaker, not Park's weapon, until we no longer need him. Minseo thought about it. The anger was still there in his clenched jaw. But he saw the strategy. It was better than revenge. It was control. He will agree to this? Hannah's smile was cold. He has no choice. He is a man who has always chosen the easy money. We will be the easiest money he has ever seen. And the only. Adana looked from Hannah's clever face to Minseo's fierce one. Her old ghost was about to become their puppet. The past that had haunted her would be put on a leash. For the first time since seeing Deji, she didn't feel afraid. She felt a cool, strong sense of power. Do it, he said. The war for her mind had begun, and she was no longer fighting it alone. The plan for Deji was set in motion. Hannah was a spider weaving a quiet web. Adana felt a little stronger. They had turned the first attack. But the whisper from the property leak still echoed. Someone was inside their house. They just didn't know who. The second leak was not a whisper. It was a scream. Minseo had a surprise for Adana. He was building them a home. Not the penthouse in the sky, but a real home. A secure estate outside the city, with gardens and high walls and a room for a future nursery. It was his dream for their future. A safe place. The architectural plans were a secret. Only a handful of people had even seen them. One morning, Taeyang came into the penthouse. His usually stoic face was grim. He held a tablet. He didn't speak. He just handed it to Minseo. On the screen was a dark web forum, a place where bad people sold bad things. And there, for sale, were the complete, detailed security blueprints for the new Kang estate. Every camera location, every motion sensor, the layout of the panic room, the weak points in the fence. It was a blueprint for a home invasion, a map for how to hurt them where they would feel safest. Minseo looked at the screen. The color drained from his face. He wasn't angry. He was terrified. Adana saw real, cold anger in his eyes, like she'd never seen before. This wasn't about money or power. This was about their future. Their family. Who? Was all Minseo said. His voice was a dry crack. Taeyang nodded. We are tracking. Panic was not an option. Minseo's security team became a silent, furious machine. Taeyang led a digital forensic audit. They traced every click, every login, every email with the plans. The trail was too clean. It was perfect, and it led straight back to one computer. The encrypted, ultra-secure terminal in the private office of Mr. Kim. Mr. Kim was Minseo's money man. He was 70 years old. He had worked for Minseo's father for over 50 years. He was like a kind, strict uncle. He had become family. He was the architect of Minseo's legitimate fortune. He was beyond suspicion. Minseo had Mr. Kim brought to a quiet, private office in one of his buildings. Not the penthouse. This was business. Bad business. Mr. Kim arrived. He looked small and confused. He bowed to Minseo. You called for me? Minseo didn't speak. He just turned the tablet around. He showed Mr. Kim the dark web page with his own security plans for sale. Mr. Kim's eyes went wide. He grabbed the edge of the desk. His old hands trembled. No. This is not possible. This is my terminal. My secure line. This is a mistake. The trail ends at your keyboard, Taeyang said, his voice flat. I did not do this. Mr. Kim's voice broke. He looked at Minseo, his eyes begging. You have known me since you were a boy. I would never betray you. Never. Minseo believed him. Adana could see it. But the evidence was there. Someone had used Mr. Kim's access. I know, but who else has access? Minseo asked. His voice was like ice. Mr. Kim shook his head. No one. Just me. I am the only one with the codes. Then he stopped. His face changed. A dawning horror. My assistant. Ji-hyun. She has been with me for 20 years. She's like a daughter. She brings me tea. She sits at my terminal when I am out to file reports. She knows the password. It is my first nephew's birthday. She knows it. The name hung in the air. Ji-hyun. Bring her, Minseo said to Taeyong. Now. But Mr. Kim held up a shaking hand. Tears were in his eyes. Wait. Please. I called her this morning. After the property deal failed. I had a feeling. I asked her. He took a shuddering breath. She broke down. She confessed to leaking the property bid. She is at her apartment. She is too ashamed to face you. She says she will. She will end her own life. I didn't know she had leaked this too. Minseo stood up. We go. Now. They drove to a modest apartment building. Mr. Kim had a key. He led them to a door on the 4th floor. His hands shook so badly he couldn't unlock it. Taeyong took the key and opened the door. The apartment was neat and clean. A woman in her 40s sat on the floor in the living room. She was Ji-hyun. She wasn't crying. She looked empty. Broken. Like a glass vase that had been shattered and put back together wrong. She saw Mr. Kim and flinched. She saw Minseo and bowed her head to the floor, sobbing silently. Minseo said nothing. He was a storm contained in a man. His rage was so big it filled the quiet room. Adana stepped forward. She knelt on the floor in front of Ji-hyun. She didn't touch her. She just knelt so they were at the same level. Ji-hyun is his eye, Adana said softly. Look at me. Slowly the woman looked up. Her eyes were pools of guilt and terror. Tell me why, Adana said. Her voice was calm. Not warm, not cold. Just calm. Start from the beginning. And Ji-hyun did. The words poured out in a choked whisper. When she was 18, she got pregnant and had a baby. A little boy. She was poor and scared. She gave him up for adoption. It was the greatest pain of her life. For years, she secretly searched for him. 5 years ago, a man found him. Park Dae-young. He knew about the boy, and he had found him first. He had been rejected by his adopted parents for reasons she didn't know. He had pictures. He said if she ever wanted to see her son, know he was safe, she would do small favors. Just information. Nothing that would hurt anyone, he had said. Just numbers. Meeting times. Business details. I was desperate. It started small, Ji-hyun cried. So small. I told myself it was harmless. Mr. Kim's business numbers were strong. A few leaked numbers would not matter. I just wanted to know my son was okay. For 5 years she passed information. The property bid. The names of minor contacts. Small things. Then came the estate plans. Park demanded them. She refused. He sent her a current photo of her son. He was a young man now, smiling. Park said he would tell the boy his mother was a criminal who sold secrets. He would ruin the boy's life. I gave him the plans, she whispered, her voice full of poison. I betrayed the only family I have left. She looked at Mr. Kim with utter devastation. I'm so sorry. I do not deserve to live. Minseo moved then. A single sharp step forward. You're right, you don't, he said. His voice was deathly quiet. 5 years. 5 years of lies. You sold my safety. My wife's safety. For 5 years you have been a knife at our back. You die for this. No. The word came from Adana. She was still kneeling. She looked up at Minseo. Her face was calm, but her eyes were blazing. Minseo stared at her. No? She betrayed us. She put a target on us, on our home. She is a victim, Adana said, standing up. Park found her deepest wound and poured salt in it for 5 years. He owns her fear. We need to own her hope. She is a traitor. Minseo's control was slipping. The rage was showing. She is a weapon. Adana shot back. Her voice was strong. Park thinks she is still his weapon. Her guilt is real. Her love for her son is real. That is what we use. Use? How? We protect her son. We bring him to Seoul safely. We give her what Park only promised. We give her redemption. And then we tell her exactly what information to feed to Park. We make her our microphone. We make her want to help us bring him down. It was a fierce, quiet argument. It wasn't about Ji-hyun. It was about what kind of power they would wield. Minseo's way was old, hard, final. It was the way of his father. Crush the threat. Bury the betrayal. Adana's way was new, clever, and cold in a different way. It wasn't mercy. It was a better kind of ruthlessness. Turn the weapon around. Use the enemy's own trap against him. Minseo looked from Adana's determined face to the weeping woman on the floor. He looked at Mr. Kim's heartbroken eyes. He saw the old world and the new one crashing together in this small, sad apartment. The silence stretched. The air was tight enough to snap. Finally, Minseo let out a long, slow breath. The rage didn't leave his eyes, but something else joined it. Respect. For Adana's steel. For her mind. We do it your way, he said, the words seeming to cost him. We get her son. We bring him here. She becomes our voice to Park. He took a step toward Ji-hyun, his shadow falling over her. But if you lie to us once, if you hesitate for 1 second, it ends, and it ends my way. Do you understand? Ji-hyun looked up, her face a mask of shock and desperate hope. She nodded, tears streaming. I understand. Thank you. Thank you. Adana didn't feel happy. She felt tired. And strong. They had found the crack in their wall. And instead of sealing it with cement, they had decided to turn it into a window to watch their enemy. It was dangerous. It was clever. It was her first real command in the Shadow War. And Minseo had followed her lead. The mole was no longer a threat. She was now the most important piece on their board. The day Adana's family arrived was the longest day of her life. The air and soul felt heavier. Minseo was dressed in his most conservative, expensive suit. He looked like a banker, not a mafia king. Adana wore a simple, elegant dress. She wanted to look successful but not flashy. She wanted to look loved but not owned. They met them at the airport. Her parents came out first. Judge Emmanuel Okeke walked like he was entering a courtroom. Dr. Chioma Okeke's eyes found Adana instantly, scanning her like a patient. Then her brothers, Kalu and Toby, both younger than Adana, big, handsome, and frowning. They all hugged her tight. Their hugs felt like questions. Then they turned to Minseo. Mr. Kang, her father said. He did not offer his hand. Judge Okeke. Dr. Okeke. It is an honor. Minseo said with a perfect, respectful bow. Not too deep. Just right. Welcome to Seoul. The car ride to the hotel was quiet. Her mother made polite talk about the flight. Her father looked out the window watching the city pass. Her brothers sat in the back, their eyes on the back of Minseo's head. The week that followed was a siege. But it was a siege of politeness. Of sharp questions wrapped in soft voices. Dinner the first night was the worst. They sat in a private room at a fancy restaurant. Her father held court. So Minseo, Adana says you are in business. Yes, sir. Import and export. Mostly electronics and automotive parts. Also some venture capital in local tech startups. Venture capital. Her father tasted the words. A risky business. You must see a lot of failure. I see a lot of potential, Minseo corrected gently. My job is to find the good ideas and help them grow. Like Adana does with her cultural center. We are both builders in a way. He was good. He was so good. He sounded boring and smart. He quoted market trends. He talked about supply chains. He made his empire sound like a textbook. Her mother watched Adana. She watched how Adana looked at Minseo. She watched how Minseo poured Adana's water before his own. She watched how their hands brushed on the table. She was looking for a script, for signs it was all an act. The wedding was so sudden, her mother said one afternoon at the penthouse. They were having tea. We would have loved to be there. To see you in white. Adana's heart squeezed. I know, Mom. It was a whirlwind. But it felt right. And the prenup? Her father asked Minseo directly. A man with your asset. You must have a strong prenuptial agreement. Minseo didn't blink. We have an agreement, yes. One that protects Adana's work and her future no matter what. Her cultural center is hers alone. I am just a funder. This was true. Minseo had insisted on it. Her brothers were harder. They took Minseo to a basketball court. A friendly game. Was not friendly. They were taller, broader. They played hard, trying to knock him off balance. Minseo didn't play to win. He played to not lose. He passed the ball. He set them up for shots. He let them score. He was showing them he wasn't a threat. He was playing a different game. At night, exhausted, Adana and Minseo would collapse in their bedroom. "Your father thinks I launder money," Minseo muttered one night, rubbing his temples. "My mother thinks you hypnotized me," Adana whispered back. But through it all, Minseo was perfect. He was patient. He was respectful. He took them to his shining tech company full of young people coding. He took them to the charity foundation that built schools. He showed them the world of Kang Minseo, legitimate businessman. And while the family was watching him, Minseo, the Mafia king, was working behind the scenes. The operation was in motion. It had two parts. Both were traps. Part 1, the sting. Jihyun the mole was now their voice. With her son secretly brought to Seoul and safe in a cozy apartment, she was a woman reborn. She was fierce with loyalty. She made a call to a dead-drop number Park's men used. The message was simple: Minseo is weak. The foreign in-laws are a problem. They demand proof of his stability. He is moving a large portion of his physical assets, cash gold, to the new estate vault tonight to show off. He will be there himself to oversee it. Security will be light. His focus is split. It was the kind of arrogant, risky move Park would believe Minseo's father would make. It played on Park's oldest idea of their family: all pride, no sense. Part 2, the paparazzo. Hannah met Daeji in a quiet, neutral cafe. He came in smiling, expecting an envelope of cash. Hannah placed a single folder on the table. "Two things," she said. Her voice was pleasant, like she was ordering coffee. "1. A contract making you the exclusive biographer for Adana Kang's philanthropic work. You will receive a monthly fee. You will publish only the stories we approve. They will be boring and positive." Daeji's smile faded. "Or?" Hannah opened the folder. 2. A dossier. It details all your debts in Macau. The names of the men you owe. Their methods of collection. It also includes a signed statement from those men that your debt has been satisfied by an anonymous benefactor. Daeji's face went pale. He understood. If he took the deal, he was debt-free and had a job. If he refused, the dossier would be sent to every news outlet he'd ever betrayed. The gambling rings would know he was a snitch. He would have no money and many enemies. "You can't do this," he whispered. "I already have," Hannah said. She slid a pen across the table. "The contract, Mr. Daeji. Or the consequences. Your choice. But think carefully before you decide." His hand shook as he picked up the pen. He signed. He was no longer a threat. He was an employee. A very, very quiet employee. The climax came on the last night of the family's visit. Minseo had arranged a grand, traditional Korean dinner. It was in a beautiful old house with low tables and floor cushions. Adana's family struggled to sit cross-legged. There was too much food. The atmosphere was still tense, but softer. Her father had asked Minseo about Korean law, a sign of respect. Her mother had admitted the cultural center plans were impressive. They were in the middle of a complicated dish when Minseo's phone, face down on the table, buzzed once. A short, sharp vibration. Everyone paused. Minseo glanced at it. A single word on the screen from Taeyang. Delivered. A tiny, almost invisible breath left Minseo's body. The last piece of tension drained from his shoulders. He looked up, and for the first time all week his smile was real. It reached his eyes. He looked at Adana and gave the smallest nod. Adana knew. It was over. "Good news?" her father asked, his judge's eyes missing nothing. "Very," Minseo said. He picked up his glass of tea. "A business matter that has been worrying me. It is now resolved. Perfectly." Later. On the news, the story broke. National Intelligence Service apprehends notorious terror cell. The report said the group, led by a man named Park Dae-young, was caught red-handed attempting a major robbery at a private estate. They were linked to the earlier summit bombing. The police praised the cooperation of a local businessman. No names were given. Adana's father watched the news in the penthouse the next morning. He sipped his coffee. He looked at Minseo, who was reading the paper. A fortunate coincidence, her father said slowly, that this robbery attempt was stopped on the same night we were all happily eating dinner. Minseo met his gaze. The law works in mysterious ways, Judge. But it does work. A long, quiet look passed between the two men. Adana held her breath. Her father gave a slow, deliberate nod. It wasn't a smile. It was an acknowledgement. A verdict. Not guilty. When they drove her family back to the airport, the goodbyes were different. Her mother hugged Adana tightly. He looks at you the way your father looked at me when we were young, she whispered. That is not something you can fake. Her brothers shook Minseo's hand. A real shake this time. As they watched them walk toward security, Adana felt a weight lift that she had carried for months. Minseo put his arm around her. We survived, he said. We did more than survive, Adana said, leaning into him. We passed. The family battle was over. They had won. A year after waking up married to a stranger, Adana stood in her own event space in Idiwan, watching the ribbon-cutting ceremony for a new cultural center she'd helped establish. A partnership between Korean and African businesses, funded partially by legitimate investors and partially by Minseo's carefully laundered money flowing through proper channels. The space was beautiful, modern but warm, designed to showcase African art and culture while serving as a business hub. It represented everything she'd worked for: bridges between worlds, connections that enriched everyone involved. Minseo stood beside her, his hand resting casually at the small of her back. They'd fallen into this easy intimacy over the months, the small touches, the comfortable silences, the way they could communicate with just a look across a crowded room. Proud? He asked quietly. Very, she said. This is real. Good. Something that helps people. Like you. She glanced up at him. Like us, she corrected. He smiled, and it transformed his face the way it always did. From the cold crime lord to the man she loved. Us, he agreed. The ceremony ended, guests mingling with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Adana worked the room, introducing people, facilitating connections. This was what she was born to do. Across the room she saw Sujin with her daughter, little Adana, now 3 years old and running everywhere. Sujin had an even better job at one of Minseo's companies, a good salary, benefits, and was studying for her degree online. She waved at Adana with a bright smile. Hannah appeared at Adana's elbow. Mother wants to meet you, she said without preamble. Adana's stomach flipped. Your mother? I thought she was. In Switzerland. She's back. And she's curious about the woman who tamed her son. Hannah's expression was unreadable. Dinner tomorrow. The family estate. Dress well. She's very traditional. Should I be worried? Absolutely. Hannah smiled. But you'll be fine. You faced down the dragon's head. One Korean mother should be easy. After Hannah left, Minseo rejoined Adana. I heard. I'm sorry. I should have warned you she was coming back. It's fine. I should meet her eventually. Adana took a breath. Will she hate me? The foreign daughter-in-law who married her son while drunk. Probably at first, Minseo said honestly. But then she'll see what I see. Your strength, your intelligence, your heart. And she'll love you like I do. He pulled her close. And if she doesn't, I don't care. You're my wife, my choice, my partner. Nothing changes that. Brave words. True words. He kissed her temple. But to be safe, we should probably go shopping tomorrow. Get you something appropriately conservative and impressive. I own conservative and impressive clothes. Not for a Korean mother, you don't. He grinned. Trust me. She laughed, the sound free and genuine. A year ago, she'd been heartbroken, lost, drowning her sorrows in a soul bar. Now she was standing in her own event space, married to a man she loved, building a life that straddled two worlds. Light and shadow, legitimate and dangerous, but undeniably hers. Thank you, she said suddenly. For what? For choosing me, for seeing me, For that night in the bar when you could have just let a drunk woman cry and instead you offered her a crazy, impossible, wonderful choice. He cupped her face gently. You gave me something I didn't even know I was missing. A partner. An equal. Someone who challenges me and supports me and isn't afraid to call me on my bullshit. Someone has to keep you honest. And you do. Every day. He leaned in, kissing her softly. Around them, the party continued, but for a moment, they were in their own world. I love you, Adana Kang. I love you too, Kang Minseo. She smiled against his lips. Even when you're terrifying. Especially when I'm terrifying. Especially then, she agreed. They stood together in the space she'd built, surrounded by the bridges she'd created, united in the partnership they'd forged from chaos and alcohol and impossible circumstances. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was better, real, complicated, and it was only the beginning. So what would you do? If you woke up married to a stranger, would you run? Or would you stand and fight? Would you embrace the shadows or would you demand the light? Adana Kang chose both. She chose to be soft and steel, kind and fierce. She married a man who owned soul's shadows. But in the end, she didn't just survive his world. She transformed it. This is Shadows of Justice, where the most dangerous alliances are forged in the aftermath of heartbreak, where love and power aren't opposites, they're partners, and where sometimes the best revenge is building something better than what broke you. Like this story? Want more tales of love, danger, and justice from the streets of Seoul and beyond? Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. Drop a comment telling me, would you run from the shadows or would you rule them?